Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Would all who wish join in the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No proposed agenda adjustments. Are there any other requests for agenda adjustments? Seeing none, we'll go to the minutes. I would make a motion to approve the minutes for September 19th as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? Go ahead and vote. All those in favor? Passes 5-0. Next up are the minutes for the September 19th data workshop. I would make a motion to approve the September 19th data workshop minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? All those in favor? Passes 5-0. I would make a motion to approve the minutes from October 10th as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? All those in favor? Passes 5-0. I would make a motion to approve warrant 8, payroll warrant 8, main purse for September 2023, and ban warrant 44. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? Well, any discussion? All those in favor? Passes 5-0. Floor is open for public comment. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, we'll move on to acknowledgements. Jake?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Don't think I have anything at the moment. Kevin?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Noah?
Yeah, I guess I just want to acknowledge that we were thinking about this last time, but that in the past I was sort of asking for or like looking for more public engagement in various places, and I just really noticed over the last few like efforts to like do the chili dinner and the like different like stuff, the dinner desserts and the newsletters and things, that I've really seen like all the effort that goes in from Meredith and Susan into that outreach, that I don't know if I just missed it in the past, and maybe it's a change from COVID or something, but I just really appreciate all the all the work you guys do in putting that out there, and the amount of time that went into that and outreach. And I also like at the same time I'm really seeing how hard it is to engage this community and like acknowledging that effort that it takes. I don't know if that's a post-COVID thing or a main culture thing or what it is, but just like I don't know, I'm just thinking about that recently and how much you guys are putting into that, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Mark?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Anything from the students, or save it for the report?
Just one that I forgot to put in the report. Big thank you to Mr. Boutiel, who took some of our seniors to tour UMaine and the Honors College today.
Meredith?
I just want to congratulate the OHS girls cross country team who were the Penobscot Valley Conference champs in this past weekend's race. They will be moving on now to the next competition. The boys were runner-up, so strong showing by both teams. So congrats to all our cross country runners.
Great. Next up, we have reports. Lisa, you want to go first?
Sure thing. Good evening, everybody. I just put together a little information from our recent submittal of the EFS 05 child count. For disabilities, we have autism is 20% of our students, our student population with those identified with a disability. The highest is not surprising with other health impairment, which is basically ADHD, but anxiety is probably what is pushing that high number right now. We're always pretty even with our speech and specific learning disability, those at 14 and 15%. And that was not based on any of our tuition numbers. That was based on local residents and those with the superintendent's agreement. We have 173 of those. And then we add the 55 tuition students, it brings our percentage of students identified in our entire student body at 27%, which is high in when looking at, my entire career, but at this point in time, when I meet with local directors, that's what everybody is running. It's just our numbers are much higher right now. And then then on the other side of the page, I just kind of broke it down with the percentages per class, with some, higher than others. Just some information for you. We still have 4 open ed tech positions. It's seems like somewhat of a revolving door. We spend some time, we get some people situated, and they're with us for, a short amount of time, and, it might not be what they expected, and out they go again. So I've asked Rachel to kind of push our ad on Serving Schools, and I've reached out to Deb White, or I'm in the process of reaching out to Deb, and asking her maybe if she can post something on our Facebook page to get people going. There's just a little bit of a process and a little bit of a wait time, but our staff is working hard to meet the needs of our students. Everybody's working hard and pulling together, so I'm very appreciative of that. Any questions?
Any questions? I don't see any. Thank you, Lisa.
You.
Susan,
Good evening. I'm really excited that Lynn and I worked together today and were able to submit our performance report for FY23 for ESEA. The numbers came out that you're allowed to spend a difference of 10% between projects. And for us, we had a 0.7% difference between projects. So Lynn does a great job in helping to budget accurately for especially staff. Salary and benefits can be kind of tricky to project out a year in advance. So I appreciate her help with that. Also, sort of along the lines of state reporting and federal reporting, our NWA window for the through-year assessment will be closing on Friday. And overall, that administration has gone fairly well. We also recently received access to the results according to the state reports for the spring of 2023 assessments. And those state reports look very different from what we're used to seeing. There's a webinar coming up next Wednesday where I will learn some more. But for example, a student can be at the 37th percentile, but meet the state expectation. And a student can be at the 74th percentile and meet the state expectation when it came to the NWA reading test, and where the state is making some cut marks and distinguishing between meets and exceeds the state's expectation. So after that webinar, we plan to get the results out to parents pretty quickly so that they can have those reports. The timing is a little difficult because we also do not yet have our fall results from the fall testing window that's happening right now. We will have those for K-2 and grade 9 as soon as the window closes on Friday. We do have some preliminary results from the other grades taking the through-year assessment. Seems like the students' experience for that has been very similar to the past, where the questions are adjusting to what they're getting right and what they're getting wrong. And we do have RIT scores available right now, which is really nice. We can also drill down and see some strands, how kids are doing as individuals, and even what type of questions they're getting right and wrong. But none of that data is collated in a way that we can really share it at this point. It'll be 2 to 6 weeks after the window closes before NWA and the state verifies our testing, and then moves and allows NWA to move our data over into the NWA growth reports that we're used to seeing. So we're hoping that that will happen well before the December 5th board meeting, so we can give you an update that would compare, for example, fall to fall growth to see how our students did. But I'm a little skeptical about that right now. We'll see what I learn on the webinar that's coming up on Wednesday next week. Along the lines of curriculum, a lot of work has been happening at ASA for literacy and getting the literacy team going. In my report, I put a brief paragraph about math and technology. The curriculum committee met on October 12th and looked at the feedback from stakeholders, the survey, the Dine and Discuss, the documents themselves, and looked at that feedback in 3 or 4 groups and gave some advice and some ideas. It was a process that was really helpful to me as we think about what our next steps need to be with making some adjustments or looking closely in some, what I would say, focus areas before we bring those documents forward to you for your November 14th meeting. So still on track to have things out to you to look at on November 7th. Lots of looking at the feedback from October 6th, which was our district-wide professional development day. Only about 30 something employees responded. I didn't do a huge push, but out of about 120 participants, so about a quarter. And the responses, I think, were very bimodal. Some people thought it was great, and some people would like time used in other ways that would be, I think, more meaningful to them in their opinions. Overall, though, the flow of the day, I think, went better for people. We were able to use the pack and take some breaks and go back into the pack. And Ben did a great job with snacks and Meredith as well. So some awesome donuts and some wonderful cookies, and Horace Mann provided coffee that were more like barista coffee. So that was really nice to have during that day as well. And so planning's happening for the early release days coming up. And then our January 12th next district-wide professional development day, and Meredith Higgins and I met with Kat Biddle probably last week, I guess, Meredith. Yeah, and she's done a lot of research around supporting families and students that are dealing with poverty and economic stresses as well as trauma, and has a concrete simulation for us to participate in, and then we'll move into thinking about what is our realm of control and some strategies to help support students in our classroom. So I'm looking forward to her working with us in January, and we'll get some feedback on that from staff as well, and hope to have that work continue in March. And then there's been a lot of professional development outside of RSU 26 that has met some of our needs and some of our goals. I've been sharing out some of the things that are available for either very low cost or free from the state and some other organizations. So Learning for Justice has a lot of work around Speak Up at Schools, and there's a Unpacking Justice Standards that is a $15 webinar. We have a group going to or participating in a webinar from the Maine School Libraries Association that's about AI in education. And I'm very happy that a student has asked if they could join that webinar as well, because their graduation with distinction project is around AI and education. So great to have a student join us for that. There'll be popcorn in the library, and I'll send you the invitation as well, because we're buying a district member registration for $250, so we can have as many people log in and join that as we would like. And I'm also looking forward to attending the MSMA conference Thursday and Friday. Meredith invited me to go down, and there's several of the sessions that I thought would appeal to me and support the work. So I'm looking forward to that. And then Meredith Diamond and Heather Holmes and I are planning on attending a Math Pathways from high school to post-secondary conference at the Cross Center that is being hosted by the state and includes, I think, representation from multiple universities as well. So yeah. That's what's going on.
Great. Any questions? Susan, I had just a little bit of a question on the PD and the kind of mixed feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think people are wanting that day to just like catch up on their grades, or do you think it's a more specific reaction to, in other words, a general reaction to the notion of PD, or a more specific reaction to the topics of that particular session?
I think it was the notion of PD. There were definitely just let us do our work, leave us in our rooms. Why do you have us do this from 8 to 3 types of feedback a bit. The other piece that I found interesting was some folks reacted to it in not such a positive way for the piece around technology. They felt it was too long. It was actually shorter than the hour that we had scheduled it for, which gave a little extra break, but it did have an hour on paper, and they felt that was too long. But when the question was asked, what did you learn today? More people answered things that they learned from the technology session than any other session. So they might not have liked it, but they learned things. So kind of mixed like that. And then other people said, you know, all the topics were great. They loved the flow. You know, they thought the time was well spent. So
Yeah, I appreciate how you're self-reflective or, you know, reflective for the district after each one of these PD sessions, because we get right down to it. We spend a lot of money to have those PD sessions, so it's great that we're thinking about how effective they're being. Appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, next up, we have the student report.
All right, let's get right started with school culture. The class of 2024 is holding a lot of fundraisers, but right now it is holding its haunted hallway this Saturday, October 28th, from 7 to 8:30. Oh, from 6 to 8:30, sorry.
OHS is a Halloween costume contest and the winner will receive a free yearbook.
JMG is holding a personal care drive and items can be donated in the OHS lobby.
OHS advisors have started their peace squares for the What Peace Means to Us quilt sponsored by the Civil Rights Team.
Now into academics. The first parent advisory group meeting will be held this Thursday. Please come.
The Maine State Science Fair is underway. Anyone interested can email Ms. Brainflower.
And SAT day for seniors is this Thursday. Best wishes to anyone taking the test.
For activities, many congratulations to the field hockey team,
Both girls and boys soccer
the cross country team.
and our football team.
Best luck to everyone in their end of season.
Yearbooks are on sale and senior pictures are still due by the 30th of October.
Senior yearbook ads are on sale on the deadline the 30th of November.
There is a Riot Pride sale that ends today. Get your Riot Pride merch right now.
Thursday, November 9th, there is a Moe's barbecue fundraiser for the Penobscot County hockey team.
November 8th, there is a financial aid night right here in the library for seniors and their parents with first steps for FAFSA.
There was another planning meeting for the class of 2024's class trip fundraisers last night. It went well and lots of info went out.
The class of 2027 will be selling wreaths in the near future, so be on the lookout.
Geek Squad has just started up. Lots of very helpful books in the lab this year.
The OHS Book Club has just started up as well and meets every other Friday during Win-Win.
Environmental Club is gearing up for its annual Sunrise Cadillac trip in November.
The Secret Garden Club has started building some more raised beds for the greenery they want to add to the space.
The musical is in less than a month, so best of luck to all involved.
And best of luck to all those who auditioned for vocal all states today and will audition for string all states on Saturday and have auditioned for wind ensemble all states yesterday. We do have a student concern today.
We have two students who are wondering about how they can go about starting a volleyball co-op league and would love input on how they should take the first steps toward establishing the program.
Comments, questions, concerns?
I didn't quite, volleyball, what week?
Yeah,
We have a couple of
volleyball.
students who are wondering how to start a volleyball league within the 3 schools in the area. And they wanted input from you guys because they tried our principles and they directed us to you.
Okay.
I was told Baps, Old Town and Herman.
All have students who are interested.
Yeah.
All right, we'll have to do some research and find out more information, but I appreciate bringing the concern forward. I had a question. The Secret Garden Club, is that the space made by
Yes,
the auditorium?
the liminal space from where there is no exit and there is no entrance between the auditorium and the Mr. Libby's room and Miss Holmes's room
That
is
sounds so much better than the
Yeah,
gravel pit that you
it's
see through the
honestly so
window.
lovely. It is still currently mostly gravel pit.
Yeah.
But they have
building raised
Yeah,
beds.
they have raised beds that they've got fresh new raised beds that they've just built and the ones from last year that are producing carrots and tomatoes. So that's very exciting to have. The goal is to have a green study space outside for people who don't want to study in the library or have a hard time focusing indoors.
Great. Any other questions?
So is this a space visible from the back of the school?
No.
No. So I'd have to request the tour at some point.
Yeah, so if you come in through, the gym, hallway, you go right past the PAC, there's a big door labeled not an exit. And that door goes right out into our secret garden club's, like very startup area.
Huh.
They've got some logs that are stools. It's a very beautiful space.
You could use a drone.
Except for the gravel.
Except for the lot of. But
They-
they meet Tuesdays at 7:20 in the morning. I'm sure they'd be
That's
happy to have
dedication.
some input.
Basically, there was a U or H part of the campus and the auditorium closed that off.
Wow.
So there's a courtyard, and for fire escape reasons, there were some real limits about how many doors in and out we could have. But yeah, there were all kinds of discussion about murals on the side of the auditorium and gardens and statue gardens. And I'm just glad the students are taking it and running with it.
Yeah,
It was, you know, too complicated to put the auditorium, you know, connect it to the building there. And so the idea was to just create an open area and also retained, natural light in the classrooms that, you know, are on that wall. So, it's just not a really interesting space to look out into right now.
Poor Mr. Libby, for real.
The cafeteria does not border that, right? There's no wall from.
Yeah.
No.
The hallway just outside the
The new
cafeteria.
hallway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The one that goes down to the band room.
Actually, that's from lovely natural light in our chorus room as well.
Yeah.
If you ever see Teddy Dixon Smith, he is the president of the Secret Garden Club. He's a new student here who is championing the Secret Garden Club and the Quiz Bowl team. He's already involved in so many things and he's truly hustling all the way.
That's great.
Great. Anything else?
That's all.
Thank you. Next up, we have superintendent report.
I have some items listed that I'll talk about first and then a few other items. The student and staff wellbeing work group, I included you on an email just so you saw what went out to staff and could also just, you know, refresh your memory that I'm hoping to have a couple of board members join that group. And I'd like to find out if anyone has considered and has capacity. I know that's another issue. We're also going to talk after our meeting tonight in an executive session about negotiations. So just thinking about all of that. The hope is to have at least 1 to 2 board members. Is anyone interested, able?
I think it would depend on when the meetings were. I'm finding it harder to meet, you know, before work hours are out.
Yeah. I plan on sending a doodle poll out to the group this week after we find out the last, you know, the board members are the last loop to close on figuring out membership. And it'll really depend on the availability of the majority. You know, it's probably going to be that we'll have, you know, most members, you know, on nights, but it's really difficult. We have 22, 23 members to get everyone there on every night, but
Right.
you know, we probably will just survey about what's best in person or remote, what's best for, you know, nights and days. And I'll just throw out some times to begin with. And then we have our first meeting, we can kind of nail it in. But it's, my goal is 2 times a month, November, December, January, maybe early February, to get us some initial recommendations. So kind of a compressed timeline to get started.
I'll just say, like, I'm really interested in it, but I am like, my life is unsustainable, right? Especially like this semester with the strategic planning and the teaching, and it's like hard to imagine.
Yep.
Send me the doodle poll.
Okay.
If there are some evenings, like I could do evenings if it, and I totally understand why people like to meet at 3:30 or 3 o'clock, totally makes sense. But I wouldn't be able to make those reliably, maybe like 1 or 2, but.
I don't think it can be at that time of day with the group because it has parents, it has students. It's so our students are often tied up right after school themselves. So I think it would have to be probably after 5.
Okay. Put me down.
And I mean, pending other people, but I'm available and volunteered, so.
You're always available.
Okay, so I will include both of you on the doodle poll and thank you.
Yep.
Wanted to follow up on the student board rep presentation we had September. I think it was in late September, early October. I can't remember. It was not the last time we met, but the time before. Marissa, Dorset and I met and talked about goals and how I can support, you know, moving forward some of those goals. And what we really settled on three things. One, we're going to meet monthly to, you know, dialogue, you know, talk more about volleyball, for example, and talk about some of the things they hope to move forward, which is the two things we identified that, you know, they are ready to move forward with, and I'm going to support them for sure on one of those, and the others maybe up to them to kind of figure out the best way to accomplish it. I'm going to work with them to help establish a handbook of sorts to help student board members orient to the role. I shared with them a sample of, you know, the 250-page, you know, MESBA handbook is, you know, just a model of topics that we might use to pull out some key topics that would help people get started. So we're going to start working on that together. And they also would like to find concrete ways to connect with more students. So they're thinking about how that looks and how they can make that happen. You know, their idea in the presentation was a student advisory council. And so they're just, you know, working that over and thinking about how to connect with students outside their circles. And so those are the two things they're moving forward right now. I think at MSMA this week, they weren't able to join us at MSA this week, but I'm going to just talk with the leaders of MSMA about the idea of student reps and you know, has it been discussed about having, you know, that as a suggested framework from MSMA as a, you know, board advisor role to see if they have any interest in supporting an effort to advocate for either legislation around having student board reps or to move that forward a bit. So we're just going to see where we can get with that, because that felt like the first step to, you know, advocate for more student board reps around the state to create kind of that framework that's not anomalous like it, you know, is in the few places that really have that going on. So that's what we're working on. Do you have anything to add to that, Doris and Marissa?
No, we're just starting to draft up the handbook, so we're brainstorming on what we should put on there.
I know you could contact the Penquist Supers Group, but I could also contact the Region 2 Board Chair, Fay Highland at RSU 22. They started a thing where I think it's once a quarter, they have like a get together of board members in the region. So, which would be a nice model, but I could talk to her to see what she knows about other student reps in the region too.
I think RSU 22 has one.
Okay.
Thing. But maybe it's because I think they have a student on the state board. But for some reason I felt like they were on the school board as a student rep.
I'll just drop her an email and see what she knows.
Great. So more to come as we continue to work. We had an evacuation drill today. I sent out a notice to families that went very well. We also learned some things and saw some things that we want to tighten up, clean up, plan for. Every time we do those drills, we learn a few things. So that's why we do them. And it was a nice weather day to have it. So we're glad that everything went as planned. We had the surprise of PLD, Maine PERS PLD audit that we were notified of yesterday.
What's that?
It's the main PERS has the teacher retirement plan that we're involved with, and also PLD, which is, I should have asked Sue again what it stands for. It's for support staff. Those who don't qualify under main teacher retirement can join PLD. And it's, you know, part of their quality control. We were selected for an audit, so we had 5 days to send them out, you know, a bunch of information. Luckily, these were reports that Sue could download out of the system and, you know, upload them into their portal. So they confirmed receipt of all the information, and we'll let you know if anything comes of it. They're just basically trying to make sure that, you know, we're reporting things correctly, we're taking the correct payroll deductions, those kinds of things for the PLD program. So yes, thank you, participating local district. This feels like a much easier audit to address. I was at Pinquist superintendent meeting last week, and a local superintendent had been visited by the Department of Labor with a surprise audit, was in the district for like 5 days. So, you know, we were all now on warning that, you know, they could walk through your door at any time and everything drops and you're doing a Department of Labor audit, but we haven't been visited by them. But, you know, certainly these kind of things can just pop up and we have to respond to them. Want to congratulate Carrie. I forwarded you an email to share with you that she was selected as a main positive principal story from the MPA today, and that was a very nice you know, piece on Carrie and her work at ASA and her work you know, as an educator and also as a PhD student. So want to share that good news with you, and congrats, Carrie. And also Lisa mentioned it in her report, but we have just cleared a major hurdle with state reporting that happens during the month of October. We have to submit a lot of student reports that are all due by the middle of October, and they're really important for our state subsidy, and they're very complicated and lots of details. So lots of people were working on them, and I just want to you know, acknowledge that work and appreciate the efforts. All the school admin assistants are really involved in that. Pam Parsons and Lisa's office is really involved in that. Lisa gets involved with it, and Lynn Gray is the kind of quality control, making sure everything is uploaded and does the kind of checking on for us to make sure everything's correct. And so we feel really good about those reports. And you know, as Lisa's numbers show, our numbers are really, really strong in special ed, and our numbers are really, you know, strong enrollment wise. Our economically disadvantaged number, which we had to collect that data differently this year. You may recall if you have a middle or high schooler, you got the form in or they couldn't get their laptop, that economically disadvantaged form that's different than the lunch form. ASA families, most have done the form, and that's how we're able to report numbers. That is also really important for subsidy each year. So our numbers are a little bit up this year compared to the last year's reporting with economically disadvantaged. So that's going to help us with subsidy as well. That is all I have in the report.
So this is a random thought that probably really harkens back to Lisa, but you mentioned ed tech openings. I wonder if it'd be worth just purchasing a small ad and running it every quarter, and there are no observer, that we're just might reach a different audience than serving schools, and it might be a local audience who could be interested. Those ads are not super expensive, and obviously it'd be kind of, as far as I can tell, we're always hiring. So it would just be a thing where we're just putting it in every quarter, not for specific positions, but anyway, just a thought.
Yeah, no, it's a good thought. I mean, we pay for what we put in the observer each quarter.
We'll repay for the superintendent's update.
Yeah, we get charged for that.
I didn't know that, but
yeah, we get charged for that. So we can definitely add, you know, do something that's a little more eye-catching than just our report.
yeah, I mean, there are other businesses that run ads, just a little quarter page ad. Yep.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And yeah, we have a few other openings still. We're still looking for the admin assistant at the high school, and we do have an applicant for van driver for part of the day. So fingers crossed that goes through. And Lisa, you cannot hire that one. We're going to hire them as a van driver, hopefully. So you hear of people looking for those kind of jobs, send them our way.
Great. Any other questions or comments? We have no discussion items, so we'll move to action items. I would make a motion to approve the co-curricular slate as presented. Is there a second?
A second.
Just to read it quickly, middle school cheering, Allie Gage. Show choir at the high school, co-directors Molly Webster, Tina Burns, music director Phil Burns, and tech director John Hawley. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor of the slate? Passes 5-0. Next up, we have the Spain trip.
So I'm going to turn this over to Sam and Angela Slate, Angela's on the call. Angela's running this trip to Spain, and she provided information on the trip. You saw kind of the itinerary and class details, and then she answered all the questions that are in our field trip policy. So Angela, Sam, anything to highlight on that? Do you, I guess I had one question. Do you have any other indication about number of students interested at this point?
Excuse me. I don't have a definite amount. Every kind of people have a lot of people flip-flopping, but I'm guessing around 15 people have said that they have an interest, have gotten more information. I told everyone to sit tight till after this meeting tonight, and I could get extra information out. There's a price. The price does go up, I think, on Thursday this week. So I was really happy that you could get me in today, so people could make that decision. It doesn't go up by a lot, but it does go up in a couple of days.
Do you have any questions for Angela?
I guess I still just have the same question I had last service. Trip, and it's not specifically for Angela, just in general, like opportunities for like financial aid or for some, I don't know about on this one, but in the future, like, are there any ways we can use, like, support students that can't afford these kinds of trips, like, that are still nice to do, and like, I hate
That would
pricing
be,
people
yeah,
out,
that would be
so.
difficult outside of fundraising, I would
Yeah.
say, and I
I
don't
mean,
know.
or like ways we can take portions of, I don't know, there's different, yeah, thoughts to like sponsoring one student by taking a little piece of, I don't know. I'm just always looking for ways to do that. And
Angela, do you have fundraising plans or?
I answered that question in the sheet as unknown at this point. What Explorica, the company that we're using, does have an option through their company, but honestly, the option is really more about having the extended families and friends of whoever's signing up or interested, helping to just fund that, not actual like selling candles or doing bottle drops.
Stand in the waiting room just outside.
Okay.
So I've talked to a couple of students about doing fundraising activities and then just splitting the money between those kids that participate in it. And so I've had a lot of kids that were very interested in that, but we're just kind of waiting to see what you all said before we took any of those final steps. The trip total price includes almost everything except for lunches, obviously a passport, and then spending money. So that would be another thing, just even fundraising for the lunches, which are fairly inexpensive in Spain right now, surprisingly enough, would be helpful, I think, as well.
yeah, no, I appreciate all that. I mean, I just, I know like students that are able to have the networks to raise those monies are not always the same students that are in different networks for fundraising. So, it'd be awesome if there were some way we could have a pot that could pay for a scholarship for the next year or something that like something, I don't know, but yeah.
I mean, it's a perennial
Yeah.
question. It comes up. It's, to be perfectly honest, it's one of the very few things we do as an activity that's not, strongly geared toward equitability and sports teams and show choir and stuff, we do cover costs for kids who can't afford it, but at $5,000 a pop and unlimited demand, it would take a lot of money to do the same thing here. So I feel the same concern. I just don't have a great solution. On the other hand, it is a learning experience. I hate to just take it away from kids too.
For sure.
So
Even if, no decision, of course, right now, but something to brainstorm towards, maybe even a single scholarship or a pair of them, where an exceptional student, maybe academically, who simply isn't gonna ever have $5,000. Because I can see if you ask students, would you like to go to Spain for a week? I mean, I would go to Spain for a week. I don't speak Spanish, but yeah, something to at least create some access, balancing that tension between spending 5,000 times 300 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's somehow, it's like just, if these 15 students, if 5% of that could go to a scholarship next year, that would be in some sort of application process. I don't know, maybe don't know that makes sense, but yeah, that along those ideas, it's somehow providing some sort of opportunity.
Well, one thing I've wondered is, Angela, is there a way to start a trip earlier with fundraising activities, kind of like through the spring and summer leading up to the fall when, the trip payments are due?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one thing that I was just speaking with Explorica about now was, maybe even pre-planning now out a couple years so that people that were interested, it's a much smaller monthly payment for one, which seems more manageable to families. If they're only paying, $75 a month, but we're looking out a couple of years, obviously it still ends up being a lot of money, but that gives us all that time as well to do fundraising to help toward the end goal. Almost like a travel club type thing, but working together, as a group to raise money. It is something that I actually just talked to Chris Crocker about as well, and she thought that might be a good idea. The other Spanish teacher.
Yeah, I mean, we were at a fundraiser for the senior class, and there was a group from Old Town doing a trip, international trip, and they were there that night doing this fundraising with us. So I think they must have a model where they start their trip planning early and do fundraising. It just seems like that would make it more accessible for more in a way that maybe is open to more individuals to receive support. I think it's really tricky to have a scholarship for an individual. I mean, that would be really difficult.
I wouldn't want to sit on the decision panel.
Yeah. But Angela, are these places that you visited before?
I've been to Spain twice. I've been to Madrid both times. And this trip, it also goes to Barcelona and Mallorca. And I have not been to either of those two places. But I feel pretty comfortable my way around Spain. Obviously, we were the tour guide the whole time as well. So having gone on one of these trips with Explorica, they were phenomenal last year, the Galapagos trip. So I feel very comfortable and very confident. When any issues came up, they were really quick to fix things, and it seemed like a good company to go with.
And what's I think this is a different company than the France trip. What's the policy if, COVID slams back down and the trip has to get canceled in terms of refunds?
Well, that's what happened last year. Though actually, we originally were supposed to go in 2020 to the Galapagos, and that they did. Yeah, 2 times they pushed it back for us, and then kids that graduated, they refunded their money in full. For other kids, they let them extend it either to a sibling if they wanted to, or like I said, they said they would also refund the money. I also was told secondhand that it was Explorica as well, but I believe that a Bangor group was supposed to go to Peru last year. And then when issues arise in Peru, they just changed the trip to, I think they did Spain actually and Portugal, because that country became an area of conflict that they didn't want to send kids to. So they are flexible as far as that is concerned.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Any other questions? Ready for a motion? Again, board has to approve international trips, so I'd make a motion to authorize the trip to Spain as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor? Passes 5-0. Next up, we have, thank you, Angela. Next up, we have one policy. It's JKAA, which is the policy on restraint and seclusion. This is an area that's just changing. The legislature, the laws on this are changing frequently. We did a major overhaul of this policy last year. And Meredith and I went to the workshop and they had changed a number of definitions and things again. There was a big change last year where they were really trying to, I think it's fair to say, crack down on unnecessary restraint and seclusion. And so this is more of a fine tuning year, but in any case, we basically decided we had to start over adopting the Drummond and Woodson policies, which are crafted around this year's law. So if you look at the policies, you'll see some comments. Those are just notes from Drummond and Woodson. They're not legally part of the policy. Lisa and Meredith have had a chance to look at it and they've approved it. The policy committee hasn't actually looked at this text. They just said, we agree you have to change it, take the Drummond and Woodson policy. So this is essentially coming forward with recommendation from policy committee as well as Meredith and Lisa. So I would make a motion to approve policy JKAA and JKAA-R as a revision to the existing policy. Is there a second?
Second.
It is a wholesale slapping under the text, but it's actually only some sentences here. There's enough we decided not to try and update the policy, but it is actually truly just an update. Any other questions or revisions or suggestions?
I would just also say that the special ed department has already started following this because they just trained everyone in the changes in the laws. We started the school year, so it has different meeting requirements after restraint or seclusion. That's the biggest one. And they've changed some definitions, which are impactful of safety care training as well.
Yeah, to be honest, they make it tougher and tougher to be a teacher. Used to be you could, I forget the details, but in terms of you could intervene with physical restraint if a kid was about to punch somebody. Now you have to judge if the kid's about to cause harm requiring a doctor's intervention to another person. I don't know how you judge that in the moment in a real life situation. Things are really getting tough, I think. I totally understand the purpose of the law, unnecessary restraint and seclusion are punitive measures that are not appropriate, but it's getting very tough, I think, just a little window, I think, into the challenges that special ed teachers have these days. All right, we're ready to vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0. Subcommittee reports, policy subcommittees meeting, is it next week? No, 2 weeks from now. And we have a handful of policies we're working on. But I think there are 4 or 5 that are on the agenda, will be on the agenda for next time, but we're getting close to caught back up again. I think there's a real hope we might not actually have to meet every month this year. And we've completed our 3-year cycle, UTC.
We meet next week.
Okay, Spruce.
We had a meeting last week, Thursday. We have another one on the 16th. This was our first meeting of the year. They just gave us some updates on the 2 programs that they have. They got 58 kids right now in the Bengal Regional Program there near the airport. And then they have, I believe, 2 kids that are in the multi-handicap program.
Did they say if there's a waiting list at this point?
There is not a waiting list now. No, and they do have capacity. They can take more kids. They did say that, and I guess I'll look at Meredith. I think they have, it was either 23 or 28 participating or districts that participated.
Yeah, there are a lot.
And that, there were some districts on the coast that were interested in joining, and they're like, no, we can't, as far as Camden. So they're gonna work with them about doing something in their region. But yeah.
Yeah, they mentioned that at our meeting we had last week to really just mentor them about how to start a program because we really can't serve everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
need 3 hours on a bus every day for, you know.
Yeah, really too much.
curriculum subcommittee, I think met since the last board meeting. We heard Susan's update. Anything else to update on curriculum subcommittee? Okay, facilities and buildings. Any updates there?
A couple. The ASA project's coming along, they're putting in the ceiling, they finished painting, really the holdup now is just doors. The central office project, we had our first requisition meeting today and they are completing demo, they're kind of in the final stages of demo of that. Just when I say demo, it's like, flooring coming out and a little bit of demo. And things are going well, no surprises, which is always nice to hear. Something I saw in last week's DOE update that I thought I think I'm gonna submit some testimony for is they have put out the rule changes around ESRA that were the department was tasked with writing up rule changes for increasing the funding to the state revolving renovation fund annually from 4 million to 8 million and increasing the school cap every 5 years from 1 million to 2 million. So I was just going to write in support of that because that would really help us be able to access more funds for buildings that we're at capacity at the high school. Almost, I think we are, like 60,000 away from capacity at the high school for another few years and at ASA. So if you are so inclined, I can send that to you and you can write something in support as well.
Wellness committee?
We're gonna meet, this Thursday, 2 to 3.
Okay, any particular agenda or issues?
Well, we were gonna do the food stuff, but there's a conflict, so that's getting pushed to November 30th meeting, so we don't have a particular agenda.
DEI leadership, I don't think the leadership team has met per se. I know several of the subcommittees are still actively meeting. I know the data subcommittee is nearly finalizing surveys for students and parents. You may recall a staff survey was done, I think it was early this year. Or was it last spring?
Last spring.
Last spring, yeah. But anyway, we're trying to get towards student and parent surveys. And a lot of it's getting to school culture, but also just safety and belonging and some of the kinds of things. And no, we did actually put in just how happy are you when you go to school? So we're trying to get some of those questions in there for you too.
Interesting time of year to ask that question.
What's that?
It's an interesting time of year to ask that question.
Yeah. I'm genuinely curious. I think it's a valuable question to ask, and I'm genuinely curious to see the answers.
Absolutely.
And, cross tab that with how safe people feel and.
Halfway through semester, end of the quarter, I'm excited.
Yeah,
We also have the family welcoming committee that Sam chairs that is working on, we have some folks who we're going to get started on. This is distracting. On the family welcoming piece that we worked on the student welcoming piece with the ambassadors, but we have some people ready to kind of roll up their sleeves and we're gonna ask them to get started on that. So that'll be a new kind of effort of that committee.
so definitely stuff still moving forward on DEI. To be perfectly honest, I've been kind of impressed. It's credit to Meredith and Susan and all the subcommittee leaders, but well, there's no big push coming from the board or anything, but it's just still chugging ahead. So that's great to see. Strategic plan, you all were there last week, right? So we did the listening session, which turned into a survey, which was partly to help us get ranking, right? Get some sense of priority, and it was also to include people who weren't able to show up in person for the surveys. for the listening sessions. That data got presented to the strategic plan group, all 24, I think, of us. And we dove into trying to draft a vision of a student. Titles of these things still to be determined, but some sort of community values or values of the district statement and a mission and vision statement. And so those are started in the meeting on November 7th. We're hoping we have some glimmer of possibility that we might actually get the drafts of all of those pulled together at the November meeting. Anything else?
Be very drafty for my group, I can tell you.
Different levels of draftiness, yeah.
I know, that's the work we're engaged with. The goal is to have drafts be refined over the next couple of months and have something hopefully to then turn into goal setting to share out with stakeholders again early winter. So.
Is there any other business? Any requests for future agenda items? The floor is open again for public comment. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll go ahead. The next meeting is November 14th at 6 p.m. here in the library and on Zoom. Is there any request for information or follow-up? Okay. I would, the last item is executive session, and then the only thing we're going to do when we come out of executive session is vote to adjourn. I would make a motion to go into 1 MRSA 4056D labor negotiation, executive session under 1 MRSA 4056D. Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Go ahead and vote. All those in favor of executive session passes 5-0. So we will go ahead and go into executive session.
Have a good evening.
Best of luck to all of you.